The cold sidewalk bit through the thin soles of Lily and Leo's only pair of shoes as they stood trembling outside the gleaming glass tower. Inside, warmth and wealth; outside, two 10-year-old siblings with hollow cheeks and desperate eyes, clutching each other's hands as they gathered courage. What happened next would change their lives forever, and the truth behind this encounter would break their hearts in ways they never imagined. If this story of two children's incredible journey from desperation to discovery moves you, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel for more powerful stories of human connection and transformation. The twins hadn't always lived like this. Just 8 months earlier, they'd had a modest but comfortable apartment, a mother who sang them to sleep each night, and enough food that hunger was just a word, not a constant companion. That was before the accident that took their mother and sent them to live with their elderly grandmother, whose meager pension couldn't stretch to cover 3 mouths. "Are you sure about this, Leo?" Lily whispered, her breath visible in the December air. Her brother's face, so identical to her own with those same amber eyes and splash of freckles across the nose, hardened with determination. "We have to try," he said firmly. "Grandma hasn't eaten in 2 days. She keeps giving us her portion, and she's getting weaker. The man they call the Golden Touch works in this building. They say he has more money than anyone in the world." Lily looked down at their shoes, once white, now gray and splitting at the seams, but still their only protection against the winter streets. "These are all we have to trade." "Maybe he'll think they're special," Leo said, though his voice lacked conviction. "Maybe he'll give us enough for bread and medicine for Grandma." The security guard at the front desk had almost shooed them away immediately, but something in their dignified determination made him pause. "Wait here," he'd said gruffly, disappearing into an elevator. The twins stood awkwardly in the marble lobby, aware of curious glances from well-dressed people passing by. When the elevator doors opened again, the guard motioned them forward. "Mr. Reinhardt will see you," he said, sounding surprised himself. 20th floor. Alexander Reinhardt had not become the world's youngest self-made billionaire by wasting time. At 38, his reputation for ruthless efficiency was matched only by his mysterious private life. No one knew why he'd agreed to see 2 ragged children who'd appeared in his building's lobby, but his assistant knew better than to question his decisions. The twins stepped into his office with wide eyes. Floor-to-ceiling windows revealed the sprawling city below, dusted with the first snow of winter. The man behind the massive desk didn't look up from his computer immediately. "Sir," Leo began, his voice smaller than he'd intended. "Thank you for seeing us." Alexander Reinhardt finally looked up, his piercing blue eyes taking in the 2 small figures. His expression remained unreadable. Leo faltered, then squared his narrow shoulders. "We came to make a trade." Reinhardt raised an eyebrow. "A trade? What could you possibly have that I would want?" Lily stepped forward. "Our shoes, sir. They're not much, but they're all we have. We thought maybe you would trade them for bread. For our grandmother. She's sick, and we're very hungry." Something flickered across the billionaire's face, so quickly the twins almost missed it. He stood up suddenly, and they flinched. But he merely walked around his desk to look at them more closely. "You came to trade your only shoes, in the middle of winter, for bread?" he asked quietly. Leo nodded. "Yes, sir. We know they're not worth much, but—" "And what would you wear on your feet afterward?" The twins exchanged glances. They hadn't thought that far ahead. "We'd manage, sir," Lily said softly. "Grandma matters more." Reinhardt studied them silently for what felt like an eternity. Then he pressed a button on his desk. "Janet, cancel my next appointment. And have Thomas bring the car around." The twins' hearts sank. He was sending them away. "Come with me," Reinhardt said abruptly, grabbing his coat. Too intimidated to protest, the twins followed him into the elevator, down to the parking garage where a sleek black car waited. They hesitated at the car door. "Get in," Reinhardt said, not unkindly. "Where does your grandmother live?" Startled, Leo gave their address in the city's poorest district. The driver nodded, and they pulled out into traffic. The silence in the car was thick until Reinhardt spoke. "What are your names?" "I'm Leo, and this is my sister Lily," Leo answered. "We're twins." "And your parents?" Lily looked down. "Our father left before we were born. Our mother died in April. Car accident." Something changed in Reinhardt's expression, but he simply nodded. 20 minutes later, they arrived at the dilapidated apartment building. Reinhardt followed them up 5 flights of stairs. The elevator had been broken for months, to a door with peeling paint. Grandma Martha was asleep in the apartment's only bed when they entered, her breathing labored. The place was clean but desperately bare, no decorations, minimal furniture, the refrigerator making a rattling sound that suggested it was on its last legs. Reinhardt took it all in silently. Then he pulled out his phone and made several calls, speaking too quietly for the twins to hear. When he finished, he turned to them. "Pack your things," he said simply. "Are you going to help us?" Lily asked, hope flaring. "In a way," Reinhardt replied enigmatically. Within an hour, several people arrived at the apartment. A doctor who examined Grandma Martha, 2 assistants carrying groceries and supplies, and a stern-faced woman who introduced herself as Reinhardt's personal assistant. The twins watched in bewilderment as their empty cupboards filled with food, as medication was administered to their grandmother, as warmth slowly returned to the cold rooms when someone fixed the heating. "I don't understand," Leo whispered to his sister. "Why is he doing this?" Lily shook her head, equally confused. Later, when their grandmother was resting more comfortably and the apartment had been transformed, Reinhardt beckoned the twins to the small kitchen table. He sat across from them, his expensive suit incongruous in the humble surroundings. "I want to tell you a story," he said, his voice uncharacteristically gentle. 30 years ago, there were 2 other twins, a boy and a girl. Their mother died when they were very young, and their father couldn't cope. He became an alcoholic, abusive. One day, he abandoned them, left them with nothing. The twins listened, transfixed. The boy twin was protective of his sister. He would do anything for her. Once, in the dead of winter, he offered to trade his shoes to a shopkeeper for medicine when his sister was sick. Lily gasped softly. The children were eventually separated in foster care. The girl was adopted by a loving family. The boy wasn't so lucky, he bounced around the system until he aged out. But he never stopped looking for his sister. Reinhardt reached into his pocket and withdrew an old, creased photograph. He placed it on the table, and the twins leaned forward to see a picture of 2 children, perhaps 5 years old, with identical amber eyes and a splash of freckles across their noses. "Your mother's name was Elizabeth Bennet before she married, wasn't it?" Reinhardt asked quietly. Leo nodded, stunned. "Yes, but everyone called her Lizzie." "My sister's name was Elizabeth," Reinhardt said, his voice thick with emotion. "I lost track of her when I was 12 and she was adopted. By the time I had the resources to find her, she had married and changed her name. I've been searching for years." Tears filled Lily's eyes as understanding dawned. "You're our uncle," Reinhardt confirmed. "Your mother was my twin sister. I found out about her death 3 months ago, but I couldn't locate you until now. I've been searching everywhere." Leo stared at the billionaire with new eyes. "That's why you helped us? Because you're family?" "That's part of it," Reinhardt admitted. "But also because when you offered to trade your only shoes for bread for your grandmother, it reminded me of myself all those years ago. The same desperation, the same love." Lily's voice trembled. "But why didn't you just tell us right away?" Reinhardt's expression clouded with regret. "I needed to see how you were living. I needed to understand what my sister's children had endured while I'd been ignorant of your existence. I should have found her years ago. I should have been there for her, for all of you. The truth settled over the twins like a heavy blanket. This billionaire, this stranger who commanded empires and moved markets, was their mother's long-lost brother. The family they thought they'd lost forever had suddenly expanded. But the revelation that their mother had never known her brother was searching for her, that they could have had support during these desperate months, that broke their hearts. She used to look at the stars, Lily said suddenly, tears streaming down her face. Mom would tell us she had a guardian angel watching over her. She didn't know it was you. Reinhardt's composure finally cracked. I'm so sorry I didn't find her in time. But I'm here now, if you'll have me in your lives. The days that followed transformed everything. Grandma Martha was moved to the best medical facility in the city, where her health rapidly improved with proper care. The twins remained with her, but in a comfortable apartment nearby that Reinhardt provided. They enrolled in a good school, received new clothes, books, and for the first time since their mother's death, felt security returning to their lives. But what touched them most wasn't the material comfort. It was the stories Reinhardt shared about their mother as a child, filling in pieces of her history they'd never known. It was the photo albums he had compiled during his search, the childhood mementos he'd preserved hoping to one day share them with her. It was learning that the cold, powerful billionaire the world knew as the Golden Touch spent his evenings helping them with homework, awkwardly but determinedly learning to be the uncle they needed. One evening, as spring finally thawed the city, Lily found Reinhardt alone on the balcony, looking at the stars. She forgives you, Lily said simply, coming to stand beside him. Mom would have understood why you couldn't find her. Reinhardt glanced down at his niece, surprise evident in his expression. How can you be so sure? Because she never stopped believing in good things, even when life was hard. She taught us that too, Lily explained. That's why Leo and I went to your building that day. We believed someone would help, even when it seemed impossible. Reinhardt's throat tightened with emotion. Your mother was always the brave one. Leo says we're all brave in different ways, Lily replied. He says you were brave to let us into your life after being alone for so long. The billionaire who had faced down corporate rivals and economic crises found himself humbled by the wisdom of a 10-year-old. Your brother might be right, he acknowledged. The night the twins had approached Alexander Reinhardt, they had been driven by desperation and love for their grandmother. They had offered their only possessions. Worn shoes barely holding together, in exchange for bread. What they couldn't have known was that this act would lead them to a truth that would break their hearts but also heal them. They found the family they didn't know they had lost, and in doing so, helped a lonely man find his way home. As for Alexander Reinhardt, the world continued to know him as a ruthless businessman, but those closest to him saw the change. His charitable foundation expanded its work with foster children. His companies implemented family-friendly policies that bewildered his competitors. And every evening, without fail, he returned home to have dinner with his niece and nephew, making up for lost time with the family he had spent a lifetime searching for. The twins had lost their shoes that winter day, not by trading them for bread, but by outgrowing them as they flourished in their new life. The truth that broke their hearts, that their mother had died never knowing her brother was searching for her, also gave them a new beginning, a connection to her they never expected to find. If this story has touched your heart, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Sometimes the most profound connections come from the most unexpected places, and the bravest acts aren't grand gestures but small offerings given in love. Remember, family isn't always defined by those you've known your whole life, but by those who step forward when you need them most.